So I'm just still Danny. I'm an alcoholic. I want to welcome Chris. I'm glad you're here. I don't know if this is one of your first attempt at recovery. If this is your first, yeah. If this is your oh, yeah. If this is your first recovery, but if you're anything like me, when I first came to the rooms, I quickly concluded that Alcoholics Anonymous was a cult, and that Alcoholics Anonymous was going to try to brainwash me. So if you're thinking that right about now, welcome. Because I'm here to tell you that Alcoholics Anonymous is a cult, and Alcoholics Anonymous will brainwash you if you let it. And my fucking brain was filthy. I needed high pressure steam clean when I got here 15 years ago. I want to thank Patch for asking me to lead my home group here on my birthday. So I'm off the hook for the next 6 years, thankfully. When I first got to these rooms was in 1987. 1987. I was at a Briar Bunch. I was at Las Encinas Hospital. I remember the first night they gave me that big book. And I don't know what the hell I was doing there, but I remember opening up and reading the doctor's opinion, because, that made sense to me, because my old man's a doctor, and I had such a reverence for the medical profession and science that I thought, this is going to tell me what this is all about, why I'm here, And I read that doctor's opinion, and I just was able to I accepted it. I saw that, I'm an alcoholic, because just like in the book, I had the allergy of the body, because when I take that first drink or that first drug, and something happens, something happens, and all of a sudden I can't stop. And then on those occasions, talking about that obsession part, when I wasn't drinking or using, on those occasions when I wasn't, I could not stop thinking about the next time I was going to get loaded, and that was, so I said, I am an alcoholic. Yeah, you guys join me. I'm in. I'm an alcoholic. But as I was going through that process there, 30 days in inpatient, they were trying to tell me that I had alcoholism, which was different from being an alcoholic, in that the alcohol was something I was using to treat this alcoholism, right? And then you all told me that alcoholism was a spiritual malady for which only a spiritual solution can remedy. And that's where I lost you all. I said, I just read scientific, doctor's opinion here, and now you're giving me spiritual mumbo jumbo and God? Is that what you're telling me? Because fuck all of you, because this is ridiculous. My old man is an atheist. He's a diehard atheist, he's about atheist, and he just always would just ridicule anybody who believed in Jesus or religious in any way. And the last thing I wanted from that old man was any more ridicule. So I said, no thanks, you guys. No, this wasn't going to work. So what ended up happening was I had to think fast, because by this point, the word was out. The family was coming to the ridiculous family group stuff, and now I can't drink, I can't drug, right? I can't. But that was my solution, and so what happened was I had to find a real quick loophole. So I went back to the first step, and I said, okay, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Yes, of course. Like I said, that doctor's opinion convinced me that I was powerless, because I have that allergy. When I take that first drink or that first drug, I can't stop, right? Like Lay's potato chips, just can't stop, right? And then when I'm not, I can't stop thinking about when I'm gonna get loaded. But that second clause of the first step, that our lives had become unmanageable. Yes, my life was unmanageable. I had this idea that I was going to be a rock and roll musician, and the only reason why I was at this fucking rehab back in 1987 was because back then a lot of rock bands were getting sober, and I figured maybe I'll hook up with a band that might need a keyboardist to go on tour with. That was why I was there, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, and the thing was that I said, well, look, I have to make my life manageable, because up to that point, nothing I did, everything I tried to do, I was always in the state of arrested development. I couldn't ever finish what I started. That was my problem, and I thought that was the problem, not necessarily the drugs and alcohol that got away in my endeavors, right? So I went back and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. this ridiculous, pipe dreams about being a musician. I want to go back to school, and then I'm going to go to a law school, and then I'm going to come back, and then I am going to be the head of Capitol Records, and I'm going to do things my way, right? And I'll be able to smoke crack every now and then, and I'll be able to maintain. And the thing is, if I can make my life manageable, then that first step is just completely, I've just completely won. But right, because if I have manageability, then I can't be an alcoholic, right? Or at the very least, I could be a functioning crackhead, right? So what ended up happening was, for the next 19 years, I was doing that. For the next 19 years, from 1987 to 2006, I was actually doing it. I was actually committed, and I went to Berkeley, and I was like straight A's, and I was honor roll, and I would come home, on for Thanksgiving or Christmas break, and I come up. My parents live up the street here, and then I come home, and then I would be gone for 3-4 days, because I had to reward myself for all my good efforts I was doing in Berkeley. I would come home 3 days later at 3 a.m, trying to sneak in the house without anybody noticing. And there was my mom and my dad, just giving me that look. And that look that we all see. We've seen that look. We have seen that look. We know exactly what I'm talking about. Disappointment. Right? Disappointment, bewilderment, anger. Like, who the fuck are you? Right? How did you come out of our loins? Because my parents aren't alcoholics. I'm the lucky one. But I thought, oh, come on, Mom, what the fuck? I mean, I'm working my ass off at Berkeley. I'm getting straight A's. I've never been able to do this, right? So I can party hard, right? What is your problem? That's how selfish I was, because I had no idea at that time, or at the very least, I was in denial of the fact that I was ripping through their lives like a fucking tornado, an F5 tornado, without even knowing it, thinking that I deserved to behave the way I was deserving to be. It was just, I look back and it's like embarrassing, humiliating, but that was my journey. And then I ended up going to law school, top law school, right? And there, things were a little tough, and I was, smoking crack and drinking every weekend was kind of getting in the way of the study, so I was on the lower half of this. The hardest thing about a top law school is getting in, but once you're in, you got to really fuck up to get kicked out, right? Because they don't want to admit they made a mistake, and boy, did they make a mistake by allowing me to go there. But I graduated. And then I came back and I started working in the entertainment business. Exactly, everything was working out, right? But here's the deal. As much as I didn't want to believe in a higher power, I didn't want to believe in some spiritual solution, what happened was somehow there was this voice, this voice that was not my voice, that was always telling me, Danny, if you want that life that you think you deserve, there's no fucking way you're going to get it without going back to those Alcoholics Anonymous people. Right? And that stuck with me, always. And so what was happening is I would get myself in sticky situations, right? And people were looking at me, I wasn't paying rent on time, or I wasn't showing up to work, and all these things, and I would come to you guys and say, okay, you guys, I really fucking screwed the pooch. You gotta help me. What do I need to do? And then you'd always point me back to the direction of the steps. I'm like, fuck, are you still doing that? And then inevitably what happened was I would go ahead and hit another bottom that I completely forgotten that I hit only 2 months or 3 months before. And I was in this constant spin cycle, and this revolving door, in and out, 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 And I look back, I could never honestly say that Alcoholics Anonymous was not working for me. And why? Because I was never working Alcoholics Anonymous. I was never doing the work and the things that were necessary for me to get the spiritual solution, because I didn't think that was my remedy, right? I'm special. I have special needs, right? And your God or higher power, whatever, overwhelming. Yeah, I am. I get to park in a special place too. What ended up happening, how much time I got left? I gotta get sober. How to get sober. Oh yeah, good. Here we go. Sober. So anyway, the problem that I always had with the steps was when I first was at Las Encinas, and I remember that first day sitting in a room, quite something like this, and there was the scrolls, and I remember looking at the steps and like, step 1, okay, whatever. Step 2, and then I saw the word God, I'm like, whatever. And then 4, made a searching for a moral inventory of ourselves. That sounds like you want to know about secrets. And I got a lot of secrets. And like, okay, that's done. Let's go to step 5. And I sit there, admitted to God. Okay, well, there you go with God, but isn't he already omnipotent, allegedly? So he already knows my secrets. So that's done. To myself, I just did it, right? And to another fucking human being, what the hell? What? You people are so goddamn nosy. What do my deepest, darkest secrets that I'm going to take to the grave? What does that have to do with the fact that I cannot get a life? What did it have to do with anything, right? And then when I finally got back, I said, okay, well, I've got to do this work, right? And I remember when I used to go to meetings, I was doing a half-assed job. I used to hear people say, I did my 4-step and I did a 5th-step with my sponsor and I earned my seat here at these rooms, right? And ooh, that's really impressive, right? What I heard was, when you do your 5th-step, butterflies and rainbows are going to fly out of your ass and you feel so good, right? So I had, my first sponsor was a guy, he looked just like Father Mulcahy from MASH, and he talked like that. And when I was doing my 5th-step with him, as I was doing it, bending it to him, he was like taking notes. Like, what's a 5? And I pretty much had divulged my deepest, darkest secrets. And one of them was that I was not comfortable with who I was, with my sexuality. I was not comfortable that I'm a bisexual, that I'm attracted to men and women. I wasn't comfortable with that, and that was nobody's business. But you know what? If this is what it's going to take, I'll divulge everything in my sexual inventory, right? And as I was sitting there and talking to this guy, telling him, he was writing all this stuff down, and then after which he said, okay, here's a list of your character defects, right? And I was looking at myself for the first time, and I tell you, I did not like what I was looking at all. And the rainbows and butterflies weren't flying out of my ass. I wasn't feeling good about this, and so I said, this is it, I am out, right? Again, I was back out there until November 10th, 2006. I was in the deepest, darkest, most hopeless, helpless, desperate situation I'd ever been in my life. I was at a motel in Eagle Rock with all my party favors and my drink, and my partner was blowing me up, looking for me, and then he got my mom involved, that motherfucker, they're all looking for me, and then as soon as I got my last drink and my last drug in me, everything stopped. Everything stopped. The texting, the voicemails, everything stopped, and I had never felt as alone as I had ever felt in my life. It was a feeling that I'll never forget, and I hope to never forget. And I remember I said, shit, at this point I had no job, I had no money, I had nothing. I was gonna have to start looking for a shopping cart because I was gonna be homeless, right? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know how to do homeless. But that was my lot, because I was too much of a chicken shit to kill myself. That was a good idea. That was going to give me that relief I needed. I just, luckily I didn't have my 9mm back then because I would have taken that route, right? But what happened was I was given one more chance, and I went to a rehab in Glendale, and this time I'm like, okay, I got nothing, I got to do this, right? And I still don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to be so rigorously honest. I'm going to be so thorough that after I'm done with this, I'm not going to have that spiritual awakening you promised me, and I'll be going to every listed AA and go from every podium, every AA meeting and say, I did your step, it didn't work. See, I told you I was special. And what ended up happening was halfway through the process, for those of you who have had that spiritual awakening, I mean, and for the first time I wasn't thinking about getting loaded, So physical sobriety must come first. And then those periods of stillness and quiet in my head were like nanoseconds, which turned into seconds, minutes, which turned into half hours, days. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, But I've been in and out of these rooms, and I still had my reservations. I still thought, I said, is it really working? I mean, I don't know. Is it really working? Am I changing, right? And at 8 months, I was, a man asked me to sponsor him. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know, let me talk to my sponsor, and I had to go up the chain of command because I don't know what I was able to. I was only at 8 months, but the word says, yeah, you're under sub 12. Get to it, right? And we're here to help you. And I remember the first man, when he read me at this step, the light that came out of his eyes was just irrefutable evidence, man. Irrefutable that there was God present in that moment, right? And then the second man that asked me, just a year sober, also I took to the 12 steps. The third man, also, all these 3 men are still sober, and they've taken countless of men through the steps and helped them recovery, and I know this to be true. God needed me to see this because, any bit of reservation I had as to whether or not this program works was completely removed at that time, and I needed to see that, because I tell you, countless men have asked me to since then to take him to the steps. Many of them aren't with us. Many of them are dead. Some I never heard from again. Hopefully, there's someplace sober, But it's what I needed to see. It was exactly the most important thing in my life at that time, And today, my life is just. It's nothing. I mean, if you would have 15 years ago today, if you said your life's going to look just like this, Daddy, I'm going to say, are you fucking kidding me? There's no way. There's no way I'm going to be like part of a allegedly straight men's stag meeting. That's going to be my home group. Yeah. And he told me I was going to be a proud owner of a 9mm and an AR-15. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm so fucking amazed. I swear, if you're on this journey, no matter where you are at, I mean, I know you old timers, the things that you have seen, the things that you witnessed, the growth that you've made, the changes that you've made that just happen, right, is just, it's beyond words, man. It's beyond words. And the gratitude I have to be able to know that I'm experiencing that, right? And it's exciting because, okay, this is the way I am at 15. What am I going to look like at 20 years, right? So I'm holding on to this. I am holding on to this with everything I got, And I have all of you to thank, every one of you in this room, It's a fucking amazing life. So that's it out of me, right? I'm done, right? I'm done. Thank you very much, everybody.